The enchanted forest hums with ancient magic. Trees whisper secrets long forgotten. For generations, the elves have lived in harmony with this enchanted realm, but the forest is changing. A new era dawns, bringing both promise and peril. The elves feel a pull towards unity. They sense a darkness gathering on the horizon. Anwen, a young ranger, feels the weight of a prophecy upon her shoulders. She is chosen to guide her people through uncertain times. The enchanted forest stirs from its ancient slumber. Magic courses through its veins, more potent than ever before. Ancient creatures, long dormant, begin to stir. Malevolent entities, drawn to the surge of magic, emerge from the shadows. The elves must face these threats head-on, drawing strength from their bond with the forest. Anwen, a seasoned ranger, possesses an innate connection to the forest. She is haunted by visions of a future where the elves stand divided. Anwen believes that an alliance with the druids could be the key to their survival. She knows that the elves cannot face the coming darkness alone. Anwen, the young ranger, embodied the spirit of the enchanted forest. She possessed a deep connection to the natural world. Recognizing her potential, the elder rangers honed her skills. She learned to move silently, speak the language of animals, and wield her bow with deadly accuracy. As Anwen blossomed into a skilled ranger, a heavy responsibility settled upon her shoulders. The visions that haunted her sleep pointed to a single truth. The enchanted forest was in danger. She was destined to be its protector. The ancient trees whispered their warnings on the wind. Anwen, her senses heightened, heard the whispers with clarity. The forest, her beloved home, was in peril. She had to act quickly. The threat remained shrouded in mystery. Anwen sought the counsel of the elders, hoping their wisdom could shed light. But even they seemed troubled. The threat felt different, more ominous. Anwen envisioned a union between the elves and the druids. The druids, masters of nature's magic, could offer their wisdom and healing arts. The elves could provide protection for the druids to wield their magic freely. It was a bold plan, fraught with uncertainty. Convincing the druids to ally with the elves would be no easy feat, but Anwen was determined to try. Anwen's call for alliance with the druids was not universally embraced. Within the elven community, whispers of dissent began to circulate.
The druids are a reclusive people. Can we truly trust them?
Their magic is powerful. Is it not inherently dangerous?
Anwen understood their concerns. She knew she had her work cut out for her to convince her people. Deep within the heart of the enchanted forest lay a hidden grove. Here dwelled the druids, guardians of the natural world. The druids were a people apart, their lives intertwined with nature. Anwen, guided by instinct, stood at the edge of their sacred grove. She had journeyed far, her heart heavy with the burden of her mission. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the unknown. Anwen moved cautiously through the grove, her senses attuned. She noticed subtle signs of the druid's presence. Each element spoke of a deep reverence for nature. She paused, listening intently. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows. Anwen felt a sense of peace settle over her. The druid, Eldrin, listened intently as Anwen spoke. Anwen described the prophecy and the growing darkness. She spoke of her hope for an alliance.
The forest has spoken to us as well. We will stand with you.
The darkness threatens all who call this forest home.
This alliance must be forged in mutual respect.
The alliance was a merging of two cultures. The elves brought their knowledge of the forest and combat skills. The druids offered their wisdom and ability to harness nature's power. Anwen found herself drawn to the druids' teachings. She learned the secrets of herbalism and the hidden language of trees. Under their guidance, Anwen's connection to the forest blossomed. The alliance extended beyond defense and magic. The druids taught the elves sustainable farming techniques. Together, they transformed patches of forest into thriving gardens. The elves embraced these new skills, marveling at the bounty. Hunting became about maintaining the natural order. The elves' connection to the forest deepened, evolving into profound understanding and interdependence. Word of Anwen's proposed alliance spread through the elven villages like wildfire, carried on the whispers of the wind and the rustling of leaves. Anticipation hung in the air, a mixture of hope and trepidation. The elders, their faces etched with the wisdom of ages, called a grand council, summoning representatives from every clan to gather beneath the boughs of the ancient Heartwood. The Heartwood, a colossal tree older than time itself, stood at the center of the elven lands, its emerald leaves shimmering with an ethereal glow. It was a place of power, where the elves had always gathered to make important decisions, to seek guidance from the spirits of the forest. Now, under its watchful gaze, they would decide their fate. Anwen stood before the assembled elves, her heart pounding with a mixture of nerves and determination. She could feel the weight of their gazes upon her, their hopes and fears intertwined. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak, her voice clear and strong, echoing through the hushed clearing. She paused, letting her words sink in. "My kin, we stand at a crossroads. The forest, our beloved home, is in danger. A darkness gathers on the horizon, threatening to consume all that we hold dear." As Anwen spoke, a murmur rippled through the crowd. Some elves, their faces etched with concern, nodded in agreement, their hearts swayed by her words. Others, however, remained unconvinced, their expressions skeptical, their arms crossed defiantly.
The druids have always kept to themselves. Why should they suddenly choose to involve themselves in our affairs? What guarantee do we have that they will keep their word?
Their magic is wild and unpredictable. Can we truly control a force that answers to the wind and the rain, to the very whims of nature itself?
Anwen listened patiently to their concerns, her heart heavy with the knowledge that she could not afford to ignore their doubts. The alliance, if it was to succeed, needed to be built on a foundation of trust and understanding, not on blind faith or coercion.
I understand your reservations, but we cannot let fear dictate our actions. The darkness that approaches will not distinguish between elf and druid. It will consume all in its path. We have faced many dangers in our long history. We have survived because of our courage, our resilience, and our willingness to adapt. This alliance is not a sign of weakness, but of strength, of our determination to protect our home by any means necessary.
The debate raged on, voices rising and falling as the elves grappled with the weight of the decision before them. Anwen, her heart heavy with the responsibility she carried, refused to give up hope. She knew that the alliance, though fraught with challenges, offered their best chance for survival.
I know that this alliance requires a leap of faith. But I ask you, my kin, what is the alternative? To face this darkness alone, divided, clinging to the old ways that may no longer serve us. The druids offer us more than just their strength in battle. They offer us their wisdom, their knowledge of the forest, their ability to heal not just our bodies, but the very land itself. Yes, their ways are different from our own, but we can learn from each other. We can find strength in our diversity, in the blending of our cultures. The path ahead will not be easy, but together, elves and druids united, we can face any challenge, overcome any obstacle. We can ensure the survival of our people, the preservation of our way of life, the protection of our beloved forest.
Silence descended upon the clearing as Anwen's words echoed through the ancient trees. The elves, their faces etched with a mix of emotions, hope, apprehension, determination, contemplated the choice before them. The fate of their people, the future of their forest home, hung in the balance. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, an elder elf, his face weathered by time but his eyes shining with a newfound resolve, stepped forward. Elder Elf, Anwen, daughter of the Emerald Depths, you have spoken with wisdom and courage. We have heard your words, and we have felt the truth in your heart. Elder Elf, we, the elves of the Enchanted Forest, accept your proposal. We will forge an alliance with the Druids to face the coming darkness together as one. A cheer erupted from the elves, a sound of hope and defiance echoing through the forest. Anwen, her heart swelling with emotion, allowed herself a small smile. The path ahead would be long and arduous, but for the first time since the visions had begun to haunt her dreams, she felt a glimmer of hope. A new dawn was rising over the Enchanted Forest, a dawn of unity, of strength, of resilience. The alliance forged, a new era dawned upon the Enchanted Forest. The elves, guided by the wisdom of the Druids, embraced a life more deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature. No longer solely reliant on hunting and gathering, they discovered the bounty hidden within the earth, the abundance that came from nurturing the land. Under the dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy, communal gardens flourished near the elven villages. The air, thick with the scent of freshly turned earth and blooming herbs, buzzed with the activity of bees flitting from flower to flower. Here, elves worked alongside druids, their laughter mingling as they shared knowledge passed down through generations. Anwen, her hands stained with rich soil, knelt beside a patch of vibrant green herbs, their leaves a symphony of shapes and textures. Eldrin, the druid who had first welcomed her to the sacred grove, stood beside her, his weathered face etched with a gentle smile. Eldrin, the forest provides, but we must learn to receive her gifts with respect, to nurture the land as she nurtures us. He gently plucked a sprig of rosemary, its pungent aroma filling the air. Eldrin, each plant, each tree possesses its own unique spirit, its own song. To truly cultivate the earth, we must learn to listen, to understand their needs, their rhythms, their cycles of growth and decay. The elves, accustomed to the thrill of the hunt, the unpredictable nature of foraging, found a different kind of satisfaction in the steady, rhythmic work of cultivating the land. They learned to read the subtle signs of the changing seasons, to anticipate the needs of their crops, to nurture the soil back to life after each harvest. The turning of the seasons became a time of celebration, each marked by ancient rituals and joyous festivals. Spring arrived with a burst of color and fragrance, a time for planting seeds and celebrating new beginnings. Summer brought long, sun-drenched days, the air thick with the scent of ripening fruit and the hum of insects. Autumn painted the forest in vibrant hues of gold and crimson, a time for harvest festivals and expressions of gratitude for the bounty of the land. And winter, a time of rest and reflection, saw the elves gather around crackling fires, sharing stories and songs, their hearts filled with anticipation for the return of spring. Anwen, her spirit blossoming alongside the gardens she helped cultivate, found herself increasingly drawn to the wisdom of the druids. She learned to track the phases of the moon, to harness its energy to enhance the potency of her herbal remedies. She discovered the interconnectedness of all living things, the delicate balance that held the ecosystem in harmony. One cool evening, as the setting sun painted the sky in fiery hues, Anwen stood with Eldrin at the edge of a newly plowed field, the rich, dark earth fragrant beneath her feet. Eldrin, the forest teaches us patience. It reminds us that true growth takes time, that even in the darkest depths, life finds a way. The alliance between elves and druids flourished, their shared purpose strengthening their bond. The elves, their skills honed for generations, became adept protectors of the forest, their vigilance ensuring the safety of the druids as they tended to the land, their magic interwoven with the very fabric of the woods. Patrols of elves, their movements fluid and silent, their senses heightened by their deep connection to the forest, now guarded the outskirts of the druid groves and sacred sites. Their keen eyes scanned the undergrowth for any sign of disturbance, their ears attuned to the slightest rustle of leaves, the snap of a twig that might betray the presence of an intruder. Anwen, her skills as a ranger sharpened by the druid's teachings, often led these patrols. She moved through the forest with the grace of a shadow, her footsteps leaving no trace upon the mossy ground. Her bow, crafted from the wood of a lightning-struck oak, felt like an extension of herself, its power a reassuring weight upon her shoulder. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the forest floor lay carpeted in fallen leaves, Anwen and her patrol came across a group of young druids tending to a grove of ancient trees. The druids, their faces serene, their hands moving with a practiced grace, were weaving intricate patterns of energy around the trees, their magic shimmering like moonlight on water.
"They are healing the grove," whispered Lyra, a young elf who had recently joined Anwen's patrol. Her eyes widened in awe as she watched the display of magic. The trees were wounded by a storm, their branches broken, their roots exposed. But the druids, they can mend even the deepest wounds.
As the seasons turned, a sense of unease began to creep into the heart of the forest. The whispers on the wind, once filled with the gentle rustling of leaves and the joyous songs of birds, now carried a note of disharmony, a tremor of fear. Anwen, her senses attuned to the subtle shifts in the forest's mood, felt a growing sense of foreboding. The animals, usually so abundant, seemed to vanish into the depths of the woods. The trees, once vibrant with life, stood silent, their branches bare, their leaves falling prematurely. One evening, as the sky blazed with the fiery hues of sunset, Anwen returned from a patrol to find Eldrin waiting for her at the edge of the elven village. The druid's face, usually etched with a serene calm, was creased with concern.
"Anwen," Eldrin said, his voice low and urgent, "the forest speaks of a growing darkness, a shadow approaching from beyond our borders." He placed a hand on her shoulder, his grip firm. "We have felt it for some time, but now it draws closer, its presence growing stronger with each passing day."
Anwen's heart pounded in her chest. The visions that had haunted her dreams, the warnings whispered by the ancient trees, were coming true. The darkness she had feared was upon them.
"What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "What threatens our forest?"
Eldrin shook his head slowly, his gaze distant, as if seeing something far beyond the confines of the woods. "It is not our place to know," he said, his voice heavy with a sense of foreboding. "But one thing is certain, a storm is coming, and we must be ready to face it."
The Enchanted Forest, once a realm of tranquil beauty, now hummed with a different kind of energy. The alliance between elves and druids, born of necessity and nurtured by shared purpose, had reshaped the very fabric of their existence. The elves, their hearts touched by the wisdom of the ancient trees, had embraced a life more deeply intertwined with the rhythms of nature. The druids, their solitary existence enriched by the elves' vibrant spirit, had found renewed purpose in protecting their shared home. Anwen, standing at the edge of the elven village, her gaze sweeping over the bustling activity, felt a surge of pride. The gardens, once small plots struggling for survival, now overflowed with a bounty that surpassed even the most bountiful harvests of old. Elven children, their laughter echoing through the trees, played alongside young druids, their differences forgotten in the shared joy of childhood. The alliance, once a fragile seedling, had taken root, its branches reaching towards the heavens, its roots anchoring them to the very heart of the forest. Yet, amidst this newfound harmony, a note of caution lingered in the air. The whispers on the wind, once filled with the gentle rustling of leaves and the joyous songs of birds, now carried a faint tremor of unease, a premonition of the coming storm. As Anwen watched a group of elves and druids practicing their archery skills, their movements a fluid dance of precision and grace, she couldn't shake off the feeling that their newfound unity would soon be put to the ultimate test. The darkness Eldrin had spoken of, the shadow looming on the horizon, was drawing closer, its presence felt in the stillness of the forest, the hushed whispers of the wind. The threat to the Enchanted Forest was a palpable presence, a growing darkness that cast a long shadow over their hard-won peace. The whispers on the wind spoke of strange creatures massing beyond their borders, beings of fire and shadow, their hearts consumed by a hunger for power that threatened to consume the very lifeblood of the forest. Rumors spread like wildfire through the elven villages and druid groves. Travelers spoke of encountering monstrous beings with scales of obsidian and eyes burning with infernal fire. Others whispered of creatures cloaked in shadows, their forms shifting and changing, their very presence a violation of the forest's ancient tranquility. Anwen, haunted by vivid dreams of fiery destruction and the chilling laughter of creatures from nightmares, knew that time was running out. The alliance, forged in the fires of shared purpose, would be tested as never before. The fate of the Enchanted Forest, the survival of their way of life, now rested on the strength of their bond, their courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Eldrin, his weathered face etched with a grim determination, had summoned a council of the most powerful druids and the wisest elven elders. They gathered beneath the ancient Heartwood, its emerald leaves once shimmering with an ethereal glow, now dimmed by the encroaching darkness. The air crackled with tension as they shared their knowledge, their faces grim, their hearts heavy with the weight of responsibility. As the council deliberated, a sense of urgency filled the air. The fate of the Enchanted Forest hung in the balance, and the time for debate was drawing to a close. The alliance, forged in the heart of the forest, would face its ultimate test.
My friends, my kin, the time for preparation is over. The darkness we have long feared is upon us. The whispers on the wind speak of creatures of shadow and fire. They come to our forest, not with peace in their hearts, but with a hunger that knows no bounds, a thirst for power that will consume all in its path. We are the protectors of this forest. We have lived in harmony with these woods for generations, and we will not yield our home without a fight. Elves and druids, united in purpose, our spirits intertwined with the very lifeblood of this forest. We will stand together. We will fight for our home, for our families, for the future of the Enchanted Forest.
A roar of defiance erupted from the assembled elves and druids, their voices a symphony of anger and determination, their spirits ignited by Anwen's words. They would meet the coming darkness head-on, their hearts filled with the courage of their convictions, their bond unbreakable, their spirits as ancient and unyielding as the forest itself. The battle for the Enchanted Forest was about to begin. The Enchanted Forest trembles on the precipice of war. Anwen's alliance, a beacon of hope amidst the gathering storm, faces a challenge unlike any they've known. Ancient enemies, driven by a lust for power, stir in the shadows. From the depths of the mountains they come, forged in fire and shadow. Dragonborn, their breath scorching the very air, and tieflings, their eyes burning with infernal power, threaten to engulf the forest in chaos. But hope is not yet lost, for deep within the mountains another power awakens. The dwarves, masters of stone and steel, hear the forest's plea. Will the dwarves, renowned for their unwavering strength and ancient grudges, join Anwen's cause? Or will the Enchanted Forest fall prey to the forces of darkness? The Enchanted Forest. Episode 3, The Dwarven Defenders.